I'm really wondering, the quiet question spoken out loud is, was Lindsey Graham authorized by Trump to go threaten Russia with 500% tariffs? And did he know there was going to be a drone attack that was going to wipe out 40% of the Russian nuclear bombers? Because this is an escalation of war that only a lunatic would authorize. And Putin is trying to see if the United States was behind it. We're living in very unstable times. I'm going to cover this report in detail. The thing I want to say quickly is capital markets, they're very sensitive to wars. And you're going to see all kinds of crazy things in this tariff-brokered world that is going to raise concerns in the market. That's why I'm still telling people, the admonition from the old prophet Haggai that said, the silver is mine and the gold is mine, and in the midst of shaking, God's going to build his house, his own purpose. Go to lancewallnau.com/gold and read about Russia and China and the economic war, as well as the kinetic war that could possibly destabilize the world. Go to lancewallnau.com/gold and be smart. This is where 40 to 70% increases have happened over the last 3 years for people that just responded to that inner witness, that gut check that said, we ought to do something, because this is the something you ought to do. Go to lancewallnau.com/gold. Let's get into this groundbreaking report I'm about to give you. Well, today's a big news cycle, and I want to give you the news that you're not hearing. Strangely enough, the legacy media literally, it's just a weird time. From the New York Times to the Washington Post to the Wall Street Journal, you're actually getting the propaganda news outlet that doesn't even cover certain stories they don't like. And then there's the news that is really important. I'm going to give it to you right now. The news that you as a Christian need to know, because unlike other people, we're the only people that can watch news and affect it at the same time. We can pray. And that prayer, if nothing else, the prayer is going to strengthen you. And so Jesus said in Matthew chapter 24, you will be hearing of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not frightened, for these things must take place. Yet that is not the end. Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom in various places. There's going to be the famines and earthquakes, but all these things are the beginning of birth pangs. So what you and I have to remember is we always talk about we're living in the last days. You look at AI, you look at nuclear proliferation, you look at one world government, you look at almost the suppression of all of us. Go back to the COVID era. Go back to the fake news forcing the vaccines and demanding that you be sheltered in place in your house. And in some states, like in Michigan, where people were arrested for going outdoors or going out to a lake or something. We forget that. But that's where the power of a government out of control goes. Now, what creates that kind of a government is anarchy. So part of what the devil does is he attempts to raise up enough anarchy in a nation where you're calling for a strong leader to suppress the anarchy. And in the United States, we have a strong leader. And, we saw those riots from George Floyd to Antifa to BLM, 100 cities. And Trump would be calling in his first presidency, he'd say, I want to bring out the National Guard. I want to bring the military and stuff. And the state governors and the mayors said, no, you stay out of here. And they literally let hell reign because the local jurisdictions fought. Just remember that. Go back to that moment, because it's a microcosm of the bigger world we're in, where you have state actors that can bring anarchy, but the anarchy in an interconnected world affects you. So, a couple of news items over the weekend that aren't nearly getting the attention or the analysis that they need is that Zelensky, seeing the weakening of Europe's support, funding them in their war with Russia, decided that they would initiate, without anyone's awareness, including the United States, who is seen and perceived correctly so as the backer, the funder, the rebuilder, the investor in Ukraine. Donald Trump, trying to have peace. Zelensky realizes that his position isn't strong enough, so he authorizes his own attack on the infrastructure of Russia. And he managed to smuggle scores of attack drones. We're in a new day now where attack drones are the new, I mean, it's the new way warfare is going to be fought with electronic warriors. You know, it's almost like going to Terminator. Right before the robots come, you got the drones going. And Ukraine managed to smuggle these attack drones across the border where they launched from wooden sheds mounted on the backs of large moving trucks, drones that got in under Russia's surveillance. They surveil all borders, but inside their border, they don't have the same surveillance. They launched an attack targeting 5 separate air bases and knocked out roughly 40% of Russia's strategic nuclear air force, meaning not all of it. So you still got 60% operational, but 40% of it was either damaged or destroyed. And some people say it's roughly 1/3 of their strategic bomber fleet. And the strikes came at a time while they were in negotiations in Istanbul. And what Zelensky was doing, and he said it, he said, I just want to let people know that we're very viable. We can defend ourselves. We're not weak. We're not about to fall down. We're still worth investing in. So the dangerous thing is he did it, apparently, without U.S. involvement. Now, I don't know if the deep state actors, the CIA intelligence community, the Lindsey Graham world, where he wants this war so bad, this nut job, he wants this. He's been like viscerally salivating with anger about Russia. And he's in charge of the committee that gets all the money, and he gets his money and his support from the weapons industry. So he's got a vested interest in keeping the war drums beating. He's over there cheerleading as the attack is like going on. This is the mischief of what's happening. It looks like the United States with Lindsey Graham is behind the attack, which is a reach so severe into escalating nuclear war and world war with Russia that it can only be that it's almost like wise heads are saying, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about the big, beautiful bill right now. Trump is just focusing on that. But behind the scenes, I guarantee that he is fuming at the fact that Zelensky committed America into this fight, and he escalated this. He's trying to provoke America into getting in a war with Russia. And this is, Steve Bannon has articulated this perfectly well. But I want you to know that President Trump hasn't addressed it. He made one tweet, one Truth Social post, and it's telling 21 hours ago when this happened. He just composed himself and he made one statement. What was the statement, Mercedes?
Sure, yeah, he truthed out. He said, just had a great talk with our military leaders. It's the strongest military we've ever had, including the fact that we're stockpiling weapons at a rate never seen before by our country. Hopefully, however, we will never need to use them.
So what he is saying is, while he's back doing the back channel to say, hey, this we didn't even know about this, Putin is saying, we're doing our own investigation right now because they're prepared. Believe me, on their table is limited tactical nuclear counterpunch because Ukraine doesn't have that ability. And he wants to know if the United States, who provides probably the technology and the funding for the drones, if their intelligence community was in any way behind the attack. Imagine if Russia just started attacking a Colorado or Arizona nuclear base. I mean, it would provoke World War III. That's how serious this is. Steve Bannon gets it. He's talking to Cuomo here. Watch how he frames this.
Chris, we're being sucked into a kinetic third world war right now that's going to dwarf the 20th century's First and Second World War. And inexorably, we've been drawn in every day what the Ukrainians did. And what the White House has said is that they never got a heads up. They attacked part of the strategic triad of the Russians. This is something Curtis LeMay would never think of. They took out 41 of the 100, took out 40% of the strategic nuclear bombers of Russia. The attack was audacious. It was bold. It was courageous. It's all that. But you can't have a country that we're sponsoring with the types of money that we're giving and cutting an economic deal and now saying we're going to be involved in their development. Did they think that they can go in and really attack into Russian territory and drag us into a conflict with Russia that could metastasize? If they don't think that they have to come back to the United States and ask permission, or the deep state at a Wiesbaden, which the New York Times reported, is the German and American intelligence community are running this war. One of two things, we got to get to the bottom of this truth, that we are being sucked into a conflict with the Chinese Communist Party and with Russia that we're not going to be able to turn around. And tonight in Korea, or today in Korea, right now, they're voting, and it looks like we could lose South Korea to a Chinese Communist Party-backed party in Korea. People are not awake of what is happening throughout the world and how we're being sucked in, and supposedly by somebody we support like Zelensky, to know that he never gave the White House a heads up. He never asked permission to do this. He would do really a brilliant but a deep strike into a part of their nuclear, essentially taking out our B-52s, which these old Russian planes are. It's outrageous. And Lindsey Graham all weekend's over there stirring the pot. Mm-hmm. We can't have people over there telling the Ukrainians that we're going to back more. What we're trying to do is calm this down. What President Trump is trying to say is, like, look, let's get to a ceasefire. Let's put our weapons down. Let's talk peace and prosperity. We don't support the economic deal, but President Trump is saying he needs it as a central part of a peace plan. But we can't have Lindsey Graham, and particularly Zelensky, leading us into a third world war with a deep strike into Russia. And Putin came back today and said, hey, we're going to get to the bottom of this, and we're going to see who's accountable in Ukraine and beyond. And that was a message to the United States.
That was a message to the United States. That's the reason why what Mercedes read is so important, because all Trump could say was he couldn't come out and say, hey, we didn't authorize it. That would look like, a weakness, a division within the alliance. All he could say is, we're stockpiled, and I hope I don't have to use it, which is not, it's just his way of saying we're strong, but he does not want, he's trying to get to peace. Donald Trump is in office in the United States to create a period of recovery for the United States and global stability, and it's China, Iran, and Russia. And the sub-proxies there you got to deal with are going to be North Korea, Yemen, and the Palestinian, left crazies who are killing people in America right now because they're pro-Palestinian. And that's its own, kind of artery of demonic activity. But I want you to catch this. Putin has made his conditions for ending the conflict clear. They're not acceptable to the Ukraine. But here's what Putin, do you know what they are? You ought to know these. Putin came there, he said, here's my terms of peace. Ukraine has to recognize Russia's territorial gains, where the Donbass region, et cetera, where we've gained and occupied territory, we're going to annex it, we're going to hold it. And we want you to shrink the size of your military so you're not a threat to us. And we want your language to be officially Russian. And you have to agree that you will not be a part of NATO. He wants the Russian language because he wants to be able to politicize and propagandize all of Ukraine. He wants to annex the territory like Crimea that he's already taken and occupied. And he wants to make sure that the military threat is neutralized. Well, that's like with Trump. That's the starting point of negotiations. But this ends the deal right there. Well, believe it or not, that's all the time we have today. And if you like these bite-sized nuggets of what's happening now, please like, share, and subscribe, and you'll be able to be notified every time we're on the air. See you again tomorrow. We're entering a period of time that has increased hostility against people of faith. It's a time when Christians are going to be tested on a moral, physical, psychological, and even a financial basis. I'm here to remind you that God is the one who has blessed you thus far, and he will take care of you in the future. You have a divine responsibility, however, to see trouble and prepare yourself. For example, with record inflation eating away at the value of the U.S. dollar, the savings in your retirement account is in danger of slipping away. I recommend diversifying your 401k or IRA out of paper assets and into physical gold. And the best way to do that is with a gold IRA from Birch Gold Group. Now that includes no penalties, there's no taxes when you transfer current retirement funds into Birch Gold. To see how it works, I want you to go to lancewallnau.com/Birch and get your free info kit, and you'll be glad that you did.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends. Because the more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are to navigate the world.